In this episode, you're going to discover which vocal training method fits you the best. So let's dive into it. Hi, and welcome back to this new episode in which we're going to discover which vocal training method fits you the best so that you can make the most out of your singing journey. Because here is what many beginner singers make or do as a mistake. And it's basically as soon as a beginner singer wants to learn to sing, they go online, they type in learning to sing or vocal techniques, and then, they get massive amounts of information, which can lead to information overload. And obviously, that might cause them, those beginner singers doing that, to be overwhelmed and just, leave it at that, to not really take their singing journey a step forward. Also, beginner singers, when they're doing their homework and they're finding vocal techniques to use, they might find that some vocal techniques don't work for them. And as a result, they will just stop their practice. And they will say, oh, well, this is not for me. I'm gonna move on to my next passion, which might be cooking or something. But if singing is really your passion, there's no way you can leave that aside because it's who you are, it's what you love to do, it's part of you. And it's so sad that many beginner singers give up because one technique didn't work for them. Also, many beginner singers are not aware that there's different vocal training methodologies. And so when the first one that they encounter doesn't work, they just tend to give up. Now, we don't want to do all of that. Those are the mistakes that the beginner singer is making. We don't want to do that. And once we overcome these mistakes, then we get into the world of the confident and trained singer. And that's where you really want to go and move towards. And so what does that world look like? Well, when you're in that world of the trained and confident singer, then you rely on vocal techniques that work for you. You're being open to learning new things and new vocal techniques, and you understand that they might not all fit your voice, and you're really taking with you what works for you. Also, when you're in that world of the confident and trained singer, then you know that there are different vocal methodologies that you can follow in order to train your voice. And you're open to learning about them and really choosing the one that fits you the most. So the question is, obviously, how do we get to that world of the confident and trained singer? Well, there's 3 big steps that you can take in order to achieve this. And we kind of started talking about the first one. But the first step is being aware that there are different vocal methodology trainings. And so that is something that I wasn't aware of in the beginning of my vocal journey. Because when I started my singing training at university, I had one coach who was specialized in CVT, which is complete vocal technique. And then I had another one who was specialized in speech level singing. And then I had many other coaches in other specializations. But those 2 main coaches that I learned from, the first one was saying something that contradicted what the second one was saying. So, for example, if I would sing a song, the coach number 1 would say, well, you need to, lower your larynx when you're singing that song. And then coach number 2 would say, no, your larynx needs to be high during that song. So it was very confusing for me because I was like, well, what should I be doing? Low larynx, high larynx? And that's the exact same thing that you might encounter when going on that search online or wherever you go to find information about singing. When you're typing into Google, learn to sing, there's going to be so many coaches wanting to support you, each in their own way, and they might contradict each other. And then again, you might be confused, overwhelmed with all the information. And knowing that step 1, knowing that those different vocal methodologies are out there is super important, because then we can go on to step 2. And step 2 is to really being open to all those different vocal methodologies, being open and try out and find what works for you. So a low larynx didn't work for me. So in the end, I just decided to keep myself singing with the high larynx in that song. And so I've tried both, which is important. We need to try both and then decide for yourself, this one works better for me than that one. So the most important thing is to be open to it, to try it out, and then keep whatever works for you. And that will help you to slowly start to build up your own way of vocal practice and your own vocal methodology. That's kind of what I started doing as well. So stick to what works best for you. And if your coach teaches you something that doesn't work, it doesn't make them a bad coach. It just means that that approach does not work for you. Let's find something else, right? And that's where this journey becomes really interesting, because there's so many things that we can keep on discovering, so many techniques and tools that we can put in our metaphorical backpack, and then we can just, leave what doesn't work and keep with us and take with us what does. And that's where the singing journey really becomes a learning path for forever, which is so exciting. And that brings us to step 3, because obviously knowing that there's different vocal methodologies and then sticking to what works, obviously it's handy to have some kind of framework around that, some kind of step-by-step guide. And that's where the 4 elements or the 4 pillars of the Sing Yourself to Freedom formula can come into play. And this is a formula that took me 13 years to develop, and I finally nailed it. This formula is what I wish I had when I was going through my own singing journey. But obviously I had to make it up because it didn't exist. And this formula will give you 4 big pillars to focus your attention on, because there's so many things to discover, and this framework will give you laser sharp focus so that you know exactly what to focus on. And so the first one is mindset. The first one is doing the inner work. It's not something that many singers see as something that is needed in their vocal practice, but it actually is. Because if you find yourself wanting to sing, and maybe even sing in front of people, perform, or sing in the shower when someone else is listening, or sing in a choir, many singers that I work with, they experience insecurities. They experience doubt in themselves. And doing that inner work will help you to get more confident when singing. So it all starts from within. And that's something that seems very counterintuitive for many of us, because we think, no, when I can sing that song, then I'll be more confident and then I'll be able to perform. When actually it's the other way around, is when you're feeling confident, calm, strong, and powerful, that you will be the best version of yourself on that stage and being able to perform your best. So that's why that first pillar is so important. So keep on developing your singer's mindset, your artist's mindset, and your inner confidence is so important. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is more obvious, which is all about vocal technique. In other words, this is where we're going to look at, okay, what are exercises, what are trainings, what are songs that I can use and I can sing in order to train my vocal muscles. And that's where we're talking about specific techniques like diaphragmatic breathing, mixed voice, belting, vocal effects like vibrato. I mean, there's so many things to discover in this pillar. But the idea is basically that you have some kind of backpack, if I can use a metaphor. And the idea is that you fill up that backpack with vocal techniques that work for you. Now, the catch is, in order to fill up that backpack, you need to be able to test that technique out. So for example, earlier I was sharing about the low larynx and the high larynx example. So I had to try both before I could decide that the high larynx was the one I would put in my backpack and the low larynx I would keep aside for maybe another song, right? So the vocal technique pillar is all about filling up that backpack so that you know exactly what techniques you can use when you do encounter difficulties throughout a song. All right, third pillar is all about creativity. I like that pillar. I think it's my favorite pillar. Anyway, this is where we're really looking at your authentic human being, your soul as an artist. This is where we're looking at, okay, now that I'm feeling confident, which is the first pillar, now that I know how to use my voice, which is the second pillar, how can I sing a song in my own unique and authentic way? So this is where we're focusing on things like variation, improvisation, emotion, storytelling, all those things that make you, your vocal color. Many singers, they don't like the sound of their voice. And within this pillar, we're looking at techniques to really shape the sound of your voice so that it becomes something that you fall in love with. That's all about the creativity pillar. And then the next pillar, or the last pillar, the fourth one, is the connection pillar. And connection, everyone does that in their own unique way, right? Some people, they make connection by singing in a choir and having connection with those singers. Other people, they make connection by singing in a band and connect with band members. Or another more common example would be to actually perform in front of people and make a connection with your audience. So connection is all about sharing that love that you have for singing with others, with someone who is willing to listen to you, whether that's in the shower, in the car, during choir practice, or in a band. However you make that connection is unique to you. And that's the fourth pillar. So we have the mindset work, we have the vocal technique work, developing those vocal muscles, we have the creativity pillar, and we have the connection pillar. These four elements are pretty much the foundation for everything. And if you focus on those four in combination with those two previous steps, that will give you a formula or a framework that you can follow in order to sing well and in a healthy way. And that's what ultimately we all want as singers, right? So I told you about the second pillar, the vocal technique pillar, which is a really, 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 really important one. And to help you get started and get moving with that, because that's most of the time where singers want to start, I have a free upcoming training called Discover the Most Important Vocal Technique. And in my opinion, it is the most important technique to really experience vocal freedom. And this training is absolutely free. It goes over that one technique and helps you get one step closer to that vocal freedom so that you can sing anything that you want. So I'll link to it in the description here down below. And that is your homework for this week. Click that link, go register for the training, and go discover what that vocal technique is so that you can put that into your backpack. But again, I want to thank you so much for having been here this week. Thank you for spending your time here. I know that you have many other choices to choose from to help you throughout your singing journey, and I'm very grateful that you decided to listen to this episode. So thank you so much for being here. I hope this helped you get you a little bit more clarity throughout your singing journey, and I can't wait to see you next week. Talk soon. Bye.